Hello and welcome to Caveman Bricks, Builds, and More. I am the Caveman and I am currently doing a review and reaction to the show Harry Potter Hogwarts Tournament of Houses. This is for episode 4, the grand finale of the show that just aired. And before I get into my reaction, I do need to say I'm sorry to Julia. I don't know why, but last week I called you Jillian, so I'm really sorry. Your mom called me out on Twitter. Big apology, Julia. I did know your name. So let me get into this episode. And obviously, huge disappointment for Ravenclaw. The Ravenclaw contestant. So let me start out by saying, last week I talked about a little bit, but the Ravenclaws and the Hufflepuffs had a later call time. We filmed this episode the same day as the wildcard episode before. So Slytherin had just come off that wildcard win when they're filming this episode. There was about an hour break because they were letting the Hufflepuffs and Gryffindors go get food, which there wasn't very much around the studio, so I don't really know where they expected them to go. But they did take about an hour break, and then they did bring us in like little bunches. And they're like, okay, who are you sitting with? Sit here. And then that was that first shot you saw with the whole mixed crowd of all of us just kind of scattered throughout on both sides of the auditorium, which was really, really cool. Then after that quick buzzer round, they made us all leave again. And then they brought us in. They brought the Slytherin house in, let them fill up the lower half, brought the Ravenclaw house in, let them fill up the upper half, brought the Hufflepuff house in, let them fill up the other half of the other side, then brought the Gryffindor house in and let them fill up. And then they had left spots for the Ravenclaw contestants and for the Gryffindor contestants. And then I was with my group of friends that I had made on this trip, and they didn't like the spot that they had left for the Ravenclaw contestants. So they took me and one of my friends and then a guy that was sitting next to me who was sitting next to his wife, and they made us move back, and then they put the Ravenclaw contestants. So I am sitting directly behind the Ravenclaw contestants. So my friends got to talk to them quite a bit. I got to talk to them quite a bit, and got to ask a lot of the questions of them. One of the questions that I did ask was, I asked that last girl if she felt like that this was a lot of pressure, and what her response to me is when they were explaining the rules to them before it started during that hour break time, and they said that it was going to be a quick hit response, that she already knew that she was probably going to lose because that was not her strong suit. So let's go to the question that she missed. This is the only question missed by a Ravenclaw contestant. The only one. In 2 shows, we miss one question. It eliminates us from the whole tournament. The question that she missed was the twins. It's unfortunate me and Potter's wands are twins or something along that line is the line. And she said brothers instead, which is pretty close, but obviously not the right word. What is interesting about that is that in the Ravenclaw versus Slytherin, one of the big questions that was missed, that was talked about quite a bit, and I talked about it, was the fact that Slytherin, both the contestant and the house, got wrong the what kind of wand Lucius Malfoy had. And that's the same scene. So literally he follows that line up with asking for Lucius's wand and then going, oh, it's this kind of wand and all that stuff. So it's like the same scene, and they got 2 different people with it. So very, very disappointing. My thoughts on the game itself. My first thought is that I did feel that it was a little unfair that Slytherin had basically no disadvantage for being the wild card. I felt like that if you're going to bring in a wild card, they need to have some kind of disadvantage to the 2 teams that won their game outright. Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw should have had something over Slytherin, I felt like. I'm sure there's a lot of Slytherins out there that don't feel that way, but even if I wasn't a Ravenclaw, I still think I would feel that way. That, hey, this isn't really fair. The other thing that I didn't like about the whole setup of the game is that I don't know how to explain this very well, but it should have been a round robin. Okay. each house should have played each house. And the points should have been cumulative as you played. Then the top 2 point getters played in the final. The bottom 2 point getters played for third and fourth place. And you do those with a clean slate of points. I've played in a lot of different game tournaments throughout my life. I've had a lot of friends that have played in a lot of different game tournaments, and no one can understand this structure of bringing in a wild card, eliminating a team. No. Like, it was fun. It was a cool round for sure, having people finish those quotes, but it should have been done differently. The only problem with doing a round robin is that takes your show from a 4-episode show to an 8-episode show. But if you had started it back in November, back when the anniversary was anyway, then you could have fit in all 8 episodes, I felt like. So I didn't really care for that at all. And in that situation, that helps Ravenclaw out, because I have no idea. Like, we have no idea if each house got to face each other, how the points would have stacked out. I just felt like that would give a more fair balance. That would have given each team an equal chance against each other. And then you would have been rewarded for doing a really good job in each round. Whereas there was no reward other than winning. Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw both scored a lot of points in that first game, and it mattered for nothing other than it got them to this final where one of them was going to be eliminated and Hufflepuff was almost eliminated. So now let's go back to what happened with the brothers thing. And here's where I have a real issue with what the show did tonight. There were rules to that round that were not explained on the show, that were explained to us as an audience on the show. And those rules included the fact that if you answered one wrong, your whole team was frozen out from answering the next question. Okay? So that whole thing that they showed with her trying to race him to the buzzer for the fuzzy thing on Luna was fake. I don't know why they did that. I have no idea what was going on. But that did not happen. She stood with her hands behind her back that whole question. She was not allowed to answer, and she knew that. And they even, before they asked the last question, came over and explained it to both of them that she could not answer. So here's where I have a real problem with that. What was not explained in the rules, and which is why I was so interested to see the rules tonight to see if they had changed it, and where the Ravenclaw team should have issued a challenge. It was not explained in the rules that if you got one incorrect, another team would get to steal, and then you would also be frozen out of the next question. So basically that was a 2-person swing for one wrong answer, and with only 9 people, 2 people, that's a lot. So I have, ever since that point, I've never felt that was fair. I did not think it was right. I felt like Ravenclaw should have issued a challenge to what went down, but they did not. And it may not have gone their way, but I do find it very interesting that the show itself cut those rules out completely and did not explain that, and then made it look like she tried to answer the last question when she did not, because she was not allowed to. So I don't know why they did that. I do feel like had David not been given that chance to steal, that there was a good chance that he was not going to be faster than her on any question. Just because it didn't look like he was, and I remember this even from being in the audience, it did not look like he was in on hitting that buzzer at all. As a matter of fact, thinking back on it, watching it tonight, and when I was in the audience, I don't ever remember him reaching for the buzzer even once until she missed that question. Now, maybe if it was just the 2 of them left, he would have. I mean, he would have had to have. But yeah, I just don't know. Now, he certainly knew that she got it wrong. You could see it on his face. And she definitely knew the bedroom one, and she just wasn't fast enough. I think there's probably going to be a lot of people that are reacting and giving her a hard time over saying brothers instead of twins. But again, she knew that this was not her strong suit, and she took a shot. And I think that, things did not go correctly at that point in time. And I don't blame her at all. She was an amazing competitor. The whole team, Ravenclaw, was amazing. All of these guys were amazing competitors. So moving on from that, the rest of the show, after that round, we were reloaded and we were told to cheer for Slytherin, and Gryffindor was told to cheer for Hufflepuff. But there was definitely a feeling of like most of the audience is cheering for Hufflepuff, except for the Slytherin group. Not that we were anti-Slytherin. It was just a lot of people really felt, for whatever reason, a really strong connection with David. As a matter of fact, even when he got to answer his question, you actually heard the crowd chanting, David, David. So that was pretty cool. Several book questions in this round, specifically posed towards Hufflepuff, which I found very interesting. There was one question that Julia got incorrect in the Dueling Club round, that Slytherin House actually tied on two different answers, and then they gave them the correct answer. And several people from Hufflepuff actually told me that they wanted to challenge it, but did not know how as audience members. But yes, so it was the question about who did not say Voldemort's name, and they tied between McGonagall and Hermione at 35%, and they went ahead and gave them that they got it correct, which really irked a lot of people. It worked out for Hufflepuff in the end. Congratulations to Team Hufflepuff. And the one thing I will say, David's an amazing competitor, Luke's an amazing competitor, Adriana's an amazing competitor, but David did not have his best game this game. I'm not sure what was going on, but really helped the team out the first game, did not really help the team out this game. One question that got asked of me was, can they not hear each other in that golden snitch round? Because, we can hear them on the TV. And the answer is no. There was no way you could hear each other. That beeping of that clock was going off, and they had cut their mics off. So there was no hearing them back and forth like you can. So the mics were cut off in the house, but obviously they still had them mic'd up to where we could hear them on TV. So an amazing win by Hufflepuff. At the end, when they have the trophy, David actually tries to take it and walk off stage with it, and they have to go stop him and bring it back. So they don't get to keep the trophy. They do get the amazing trip. So the trip includes $1,000 shopping spree to the new Harry Potter store and a trip to the Harry Potter store. Two tickets to Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which had another question tonight. Then a trip to the new Harry Potter exhibit, which was not mentioned when we were there because that was not open yet. And then the 4-day, 3-night stay at Universal Orlando, Florida. And then we were told that the houses were actually going to get prizes as well for each time that they won. So Hufflepuff, in theory, should get 2 prizes. Slytherin should get 2 prizes. Ravenclaw should get a prize, and Gryffindor should not. And then as we were leaving, they had given a whole bunch of audience members shirts to make them look more like their houses. I did not get a shirt. At the time, I was told that I looked fine, even though the second night I was wearing a solid black shirt. The first night I was wearing a navy blue shirt, so I did look like a Ravenclaw, but I was wearing a solid black shirt the second night. And I was told I was looking fine. But I found out later that they didn't even have shirts in my size, and the reason why I found that out is because as we were checking out to leave and we were getting our phones back and all this stuff, they didn't take the shirts back. They let everyone keep them. And when people were asking about where are the prizes, when do we get the prizes, several people were told the shirts are your prizes. But Gryffindor's got to keep their shirts. And then Hufflepuff didn't get an additional prize on top of that. Slytherin did not get an additional prize on top of that. And then several of us, myself included, were not given shirts at all. So that's kind of a hurts. But also still kind of a mystery. Several people have asked the production people and the audience people like, hey, when can we expect our prizes? What are our prizes? When are we getting our prizes? And no answer whatsoever. So there was definitely a few things that were communicated to us that have not come to fruition for whatever reason, and communication has pretty much ceased as far as all of that's concerned. Um, I think a lot of people feel like I do that. Hey, this show it was great, it was fantastic, it was amazing, but it definitely could be better, and it could use a few tweaks. And I think that there are some people out there with some really good ideas, and I do hope that if they do this again, which please do it again, that they listen to some of these people with some really good ideas and do a few of these tweaks. The only other tweak that I have for the show, other than the ones that I've already talked about, is not doing it on Sunday nights. And my only reasoning for this is NFL football is on Sunday nights, every Sunday night during the NFL season, and they're a ratings monster. As a matter of fact, it is well known throughout television. You do not put anything up against the NFL on Sunday nights. And yet here we are. And I realize it's probably mostly a different crowd, but I'm a big NFL fan. I know several other Harry Potter fans that are big NFL fans. And it's just like, I feel like the show episode 1 had really good ratings. They have not released, at least not that I can find, any ratings for any of the other episodes. But could it have been better had we not gone up against the NFL? And we'll never know, I guess. But that's just kind of my thing. I know a lot of people aren't sports fans, and they're sitting here going, "You're crazy. It's just because you like the NFL." It has nothing to do with the fact that I like the NFL. It really has to do with the fact that the NFL draws in so many viewers that there just aren't that many viewers left for everything else on television. And so put on Saturday night, put on Friday night. That would be my only other little tweak of it. Now, I do have a special surprise. I am about to be joined by a possible contestant. This guy, his name is Thomas Roy. He started a brand new podcast on YouTube that I will let him tell you about. But he is going to be joining me to tell you what it was like to be a possible contestant. He was one of those 24 people. He was one of the 3 that didn't get chosen for Ravenclaw, and he's going to tell me this. He just saw the episode for the first time tonight. He was not allowed in for the wild card or for the finale, so all of this was brand new to him. So we're going to get his thoughts and reactions on all of this. So please stay tuned for that. And for right now, I'm going to give myself a plug. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend so that they can see all this stuff. Not nearly as much controversy as tonight, but it was by far the closest game of all of them played. Only 20 points between the two houses, no golden snitch capture. So every question absolutely mattered in this one. So great game. I'm sad that it's over. And I hope that I get to do it again. But for now, let me bring in Thomas Roy. All right, so joining me now is Thomas Roy, who was one of our possible Ravenclaw contestants. And actually, in that first episode where he got chosen, was removed from me by one person, which is pretty crazy. So tonight was the first night that you were seeing this final episode. What did you think?
Well, yeah, how crazy is it that we were, to start off, just one person in between us. And I think we might have talked, here and there and once or twice. And I think you even offered me up your little flag that you were waving around just to kind of, I guess, make me feel better for not being selected. So I wanted to, give you a shout out for appreciate that.
But, be glad you didn't take it because it broke at the end of the night.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that episode was intense. I'm still friends with all the contestants, pretty much all 24 of us, and no spoilers. They didn't even give out spoilers for the show. So I was held in suspense, and it was, that was pretty dramatic, that entire episode.
I will say that first part where the buzzer thing, there were several times where like the tension was so high in the room. Like it was making me more tense and more nervous just because you could feel everyone's tension. So what did you think of that round? Did you think that was a good way to kind of go into this final?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like gearing up and preparing to be on the show, that's kind of more or less what I kind of had in mind, like a buzzer style, Jeopardy style kind of quiz show. And looking back, because it just happened, most of those questions were pulled from the books, if I'm not mistaken. If not all of them, was it?
Uh,
Well, in the buzzer round, they were all movie quotes. So they would
That's
stop
right.
the
The movie,
guy.
yeah, the second round was, but still,
Yeah.
they were very challenging and
Yeah.
more challenging of questions than the previous episodes round, I thought. So those were, yeah, whoever wrote those questions, in this particular final episode did a really good job.
Now, I personally felt like the wild card questions were a little bit more difficult than this round.
Yeah, maybe.
One thing I did find interesting is particularly in that golden snitch round, the questions are supposed to get progressively harder as we move through the 6 questions. But then that last question is about the Ronsky feint, which, as you said, is a book specific question. That was one of a many book specific questions in this episode. And even my 10-year-old, who is a fan, but not a big fan, was like, I know that one.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like they were necessarily progressively getting harder.
Yeah, maybe they weren't grouped correctly, but yeah, for example, I think David, his 10-point question was for me on my notes whenever I was studying over the summer. That was the top of my notes as the final book 1 final score, and I to this day cannot tell you the exact numbers per house because it's just numbers in Harry Potter. It was so difficult to try to study, and so I even guessed wrong on that one. I think I thought it was 322.
So let's go back to that first round because this is such a big deal for those of us that were in the audience. What they cut out of the show and didn't tell you, at least not that I know of, so maybe you can clarify this for us, is that when she answered that question wrong, Louisa, that her whole team, so if anybody had been left with her whole team was locked out of answering the next question.
Locked out. Sorry, are you? Because they did go over the rules on like Tuesday. So that's the quick quarrel. I cannot officially. I think you're right. I think that they would have been locked out. It's whoever hit the buzzer had an answer.
So that's what they had told us. Like Helen had read those rules to all of us on the TV show, and then it was completely cut out. But what she didn't tell us is that another team could steal also when you got it wrong. So that was essentially a 2-person swing for one wrong answer.
Yeah.
Which to me, when you only have 9 people up there, seems really harsh.
Yeah, because the percentages and whatnot obviously plays in the favor of Hufflepuff in that point. Even though considering Ravenclaw put themselves in a decent position to win that game or to at least advance. So it's unfortunate that that Louise she's ate up about it. Honestly, she again I didn't know. I kind of had an inkling that Hufflepuff won. We didn't spoil it for each other, but I was kind of reading between the lines with our group chat. And then earlier today, Louise says I'm not watching. It's just too hard. And so whenever it got to just her, my mind started putting 2 and 2 together, and I was thinking, oh God, please no. And then that happened, and I was like, oh, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah. She told me because she sat right in front of me because they went and put them in the audience, and she was right in front of me. And I asked her about it, and she told me that the moment she found out that it was going to be a quick buzzer type thing, she knew she was done because she said that was not her style of play at all.
When we studied that whole week, and I mean, again, just to put out there to everyone that might criticize the contestants or whatever, everyone that was on that stage deserved to be there. They really did a good job of getting the best Harry Potter fans from the country to be there. And Louise knows her stuff. She knew more than I did. Everyone on that competition round certainly knew their stuff. It's just, the stage and the bright lights and the pressure to be there is insurmountable. So, my hat's off to everyone that actually did get picked. And I don't even know, like I know I've seen so many people online saying, oh, I wish, I could have been picked or it should have been me up there. Well, apply next year if they do this, and good luck to you, once you do get selected and if you are under the bright lights. So yeah.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of pressure put on those guys. Like I said, the tension in the room was so strong; it had to have made it even that much more tense for them.
Oh, yeah.
She did tell me that as soon as she said the word brothers, she knew that it was wrong.
Yeah.
So why didn't you guys get to stay? Like, why didn't you get to stay and finish it?
It's unfortunate that we didn't, and I tell you, like, because you were in that first taping, and it ended at what, 12:30? It was really late.
It was really late, yeah.
And so we didn't get back to the hotel room till like 1:30, and they had already rearranged my flight schedule and had me booked a ticket to LAX at 10:20 in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
So like I'm already, getting back, I'm texting because I didn't have my phone on me, and I had like 30 missed text messages, asking me, did you get picked or whatnot. So I'm trying to pack, I'm kind of sad and realizing I'm only going to get like 4 hours of sleep, and ended up having to wake, like I went to bed at like 3 and woke up at 6 because you know how it is to get ready to go to the airport. I had to Uber myself there. I only got to the airport with like 20 minutes to spare. But yeah, I think they were just trying to save money on a hotel room for 2 extra nights. I wish I could have been a part there. I like how, the scenery of all the house colors combined in the audience. That looked really cool. So yeah, it's unfortunate that I couldn't be there in the final round, but it's probably just a logistical reason behind it with the creative team involved.
Okay. So anything behind the scenes that maybe we as audience members couldn't see that you guys got to experience? Like I was talking about last week, on the intro shots coming back from that first break, they would always show some item. Last week, it was like Tom Riddle's diary and things like, did they show you guys all those props and everything, or was everything pretty much kept a secret?
Everything was kept a secret. Like I said, we did, all of us, again, they held us into suspense between who was going to get picked until the second Helen reads off those names. So, but we did do a practice run kind of deal on Tuesday, and it's funny, they just had like a guy holding a giant white Walmart poster board that had all the spells and whatnot, and whenever it was our turn to do the practice run for Accio, they had like the Noble Collection Hermione Granger's wand. Obvious that it's Hermione's wand, but part of their rules and whatnot, even if the other team's going to get it right, the other team has to, even if it's not going to be used as the filming, has to give an answer. So that, those kind of like behind the scenes stuff was very kind of confusing. And I can tell that some of that confusion and some of that dialogue within the contestants shows on the episode. And all of us, we were not thrilled about that, about the kind of forced dialogue when it came to answering and being, just kind of making your voices known, for the sake of the show. So that was the most challenging part for all of the contestants and potential contestants.
So I've got 3 questions from you based on that answer. The first one being, were you aware that even in the taping of the show that they made both houses guess whether they got it right or incorrect every time they brought something out? So, for example, tonight, when they brought out the actors that played the 9 3/4 guy, they made both teams answer, even though Hufflepuff got it right away.
Yeah, it doesn't make, like, I'm sure there's a reason, but it just doesn't make sense. Like if the team that's answering got it right, why do you have to cut and say, okay, y'all pretend like y'all are answering? And I don't understand it.
Okay. My next question is, do you feel like on that Tuesday run through that maybe that was a little bit of an audition, that they were trying to see how you could handle this forced dialogue?
Yeah, because they it lasted about an hour and a half, and they kept shuffling us around. So we would play the game a little bit, and then they would say, cut. Okay, so you, Louise, you and Annie stand over here. Thomas, you stand here with Michaela. And they kind of kept doing the shuffle thing around while we would continue to play the game. And, they just kept encouraging us to be interactive. And so, there was, there was really no telling, at that point. Like, obviously, we knew all eyes were on us with I think 6 or 8 people that were in the room, probably studying us like a hawk. So we all, gave our best performance, in hopes to be selected for that Thursday's final, that Thursday's first taping. So after the tryouts, and just so we can kind of just at least get a gist of how the game's going to go, we did like costume wardrobes. We were asked to bring a lot of selections of clothing for them to put on us and to see what works best. They ended up, kind of emailing us on Wednesday night, this is your selection. This is what we want you to wear, bring to set. And it wasn't until we were all changed up and in costume that I kind of realized who was the 3 going to be at that point, because they had me, Michaela, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. He was a minor. He
was a minor. I do remember that. Yeah.
He rarely hung. He had his dad with him, and he was probably doing a lot of schoolwork. So I honestly forget his name. But they had the 3 of us in these shirts, and Luis, Annie, and Vincent, and flashier clothing. And that's kind of when I realized it's probably not going to be me.
Yeah. Now, so my third question on this is, why did they want this forced dialogue? Because I think it's been quite a bit of discussion in all the fan groups and everything. Like, why all this dialogue?
I mean, it's a pretty simple answer, but it kind of like it's just a just a Pandora's box of like there's so many other options. I think they just wanted the audience and the viewers at home to get inside the mind of the contestant, even if it's. And they released an article regarding like the day before the first show ever aired, where they were talking to the producers and the creative team about why they picked certain questions, why a lot of them were easier. So if you go back and read that article, this kind of conversation will make a little bit more sense. I get that they want to appeal to not just Harry Potter fans and not just the hardcore Harry Potter fans. They want to appeal to the masses. And so, again, it puts the contestants in a difficult situation where, like, if I was to ask you, what is Harry Potter's Gringotts vault number? Obvious, easy answer, but they just wanted us to not drag it out, but just to I guess add a little bit of flair and drama to it, which on some of those questions kind of almost makes it in a way, I wouldn't say cringy, but just, I don't know, just kind of too obvious and forced.
So did they have a green room for you guys? Like, what was the backstage situation like?
It's honestly just kind of like a wardrobe storage closet, no bigger than my office room. They catered to us. I think we had Panda Express. I felt bad for all you guys because y'all said that y'all were there all day and starving. I think we took like a 40-minute break and we went to go eat. And I heard y'all complaining and starving or whatever. So I just kind of kept my mouth shut. But it was really, it was really awesome. They let us, we call ourselves the Silver Trio. They let us come on to set during that break and take pictures.
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of the pictures that you put out there, I'm in the background of, because I did not leave.
Way up there if you zoom in. Yeah. So that was really special to me. At least I had some kind of proof other than just a quick snapshot of my TV in the audience that I was actually there. So it was really awesome, regardless of not being selected. It was a really phenomenal experience that I got to have. It made my summer. I mean, this has been going on basically since the 1st of June. I didn't know I was going to LA until August, I think 16th for sure. So, I mean, my entire summer was devoted to being on this show and to look back and realize how close I got to be one of 24 people out of literally thousands of people that applied to be on this was an experience that'll never leave me.
Now, you didn't get one of the fun answer remotes like the rest of us did.
Correct. Yeah, that was even kind of like on top of it, more disappointing that I couldn't even contribute for my team. But I was sitting next to a girl on the other side of you who was, bless her, but she was not answering questions too accurately. I'll just say that. And so I saw her get maybe one or two wrong in a row, and I finally just kind of, I think even if one of the pictures that you took of the show, you can see me like looking at her. So she ended up giving me her remote about halfway through. So yeah, it was a little disappointing, obviously not being selected, and the fact that we had to film that twice, that selection process twice.
Oh gosh, yes.
So the second time, I'm just like, yay, congratulations for you, man. But yeah.
So they also made them film the elimination twice tonight. So they after
Hufflepuff winning.
Yeah. So no. So
of Luis
the quick round of Luis losing, they brought everybody back out and made them refilm in the order that they answered, them buzzing and leaving the stage.
Just to get what B-roll footage, I guess.
I don't. So David, I don't know if you noticed, but kind of does this "Don't you forget about me" fist pump raise, and they didn't get it. I think so. They redid the whole thing just to kind of get his fist pump. And poor Annie, she was bawling her eyes out.
She was crying. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was pretty emotional. I could tell throughout the whole experience, even studying and whatnot. Because she had just turned 21, like I think like 2 or 3 days prior to flying out there. So she was just kind of, literally, pun intended, buzzing, with just, so much, warmth and excitement and emotions.
Yeah. So they brought you guys in from everywhere, right? Like, I think you're from Alabama. Is that correct?
That's correct. Roll Tide.
And then Luisa's from Houston. Vincent, I don't know. I know he grew up in the Philippines. I don't know where he's from now.
He's actually lives in California. I really want to say Sacramento or San Francisco, but it was not a long trip for him.
So it's not like you guys had the chance to ever meet before any of this. Like we're pulling people in from everywhere.
Yes. Now, like obviously we had known each other for that week, so only for a couple of days, just in the hotel room. After Tuesday, once we were explained the rules, we were instructed to where only the Ravenclaws can hang out with the Ravenclaws and Slytherins. So we were kind of, on top of being COVID isolated from the outside world, we were kind of isolated from everybody else at that point.
So is it true that you guys also had kind of like a handler that was like, hey, don't fraternize with each other?
Not so strict as kind of like that. Like we were allowed to all be at the pool together and have drinks and lunch, but we just could not talk about the show.
Okay.
And we couldn't even really talk about Harry Potter. We could, but we couldn't like talk about the dueling club. So maybe this and this. We'll pick this part. Like we couldn't strategize or. We couldn't talk about the show, so we just kind of all just said, well, we're just not going to talk about Harry Potter if we're just kind of intermingled with each other.
But the Ravenclaws, when you guys were just together, you could still talk about the show.
Yes, we organized several study sessions that Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday, we didn't have anything going on because it was a COVID day or a isolation day, so it was just nothing but mainly watching the Fantastic Beasts movies and Cursed Child was the big thing. That's the thing that we left to last, just because we overstudied and wanted to make sure that if the hardball questions came our way, that we would get those. And that's probably, honestly, I know a lot of people are going to be like, why did they miss this easy one? I could have answered that. It's because we overstudied. We were going, deep diving into these books and then into these films. Obviously not deep enough to recognize Hermione Granger's parents' couch. But
is that not the craziest question?
It's so dumb. And everyone on my group chat, all the contestants, every time you mention the word couch, it's just like people start throwing chairs and stuff. It's pretty crazy. So dumb.
Well, and so what was funny is being in the audience and not having been there, I still knew that both teams got it wrong. And I was still so convinced that it was B that I couldn't wait for both teams to answer to know, oh no, it's actually A.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. And I've already rewatched that scene like 3 or 4 times. And you only catch like literally that much of it in the corner for like 3 seconds. And the back of it for like 2 seconds. And the lighting's all different because David Yates and his grayscale lighting in those films, like how do you, I don't know. Yeah, some of the
So do
questions
you
were a
feel
little
like
bit
that was the
more
hardest question that you saw?
hardest or most ridiculous. It's definitely the most ridiculous. So I mean, I guess it qualifies as a hard question, but I couldn't really tell you what the hardest question is. They did throw out a couple of them. Anything from the cursed child was pretty hard because let's be honest.
So that's funny that you bring that up, because in line that last day, we were constantly quizzing each other, even though we knew like they weren't going to be asking us any direct questions. But somebody asked, what is the name of the nanny that that was on the boat with the Lestrange girl?
Delphi?
Yes, but no one could figure it out. And we finally got one of the guys that was helping out with the audience thing, who still had, because they were working there, they didn't have to have their phones locked up, to Google it for us, because we could not for the life of us remember.
Yeah, I had this clever idea of studying and gearing up towards studying where I printed out all the chapter title art for the book. There's 199 chapters. So so before we were all isolated from each other, it was either, I guess it was that Monday night, most everybody was hanging out in the lobby and drinking and having a good time. And so I pulled out this chapter art title, and my guy Ryan, that everyone is up in arms about, that Umbridge is his favorite character, he got 197 out of 199 correct chapter title names. I was pretty impressed with that. And everyone was actually really impressed that I even thought, because I thought that would be a fun idea for the game show. It's like, here's a chapter title, artwork, what's the name of the chapter? That's what I would have, if I was in charge of this, that's a category I would have came up with.
Now, he definitely saved Slytherin tonight, and I think he showed how good of a competitor he was. What they didn't show is that the other two Slytherin contestants were very sold on answering Ron and Hermione on that sound question.
Yeah.
And so before they gave their final answer, they asked Helen Mirren to repeat the question.
Talking about her, the Hedwig flying away in the snow.
Yes, yeah. And Ryan was not on the Ron and Hermione train, pun intended. And that was why he asked her to repeat the question, because he was very convinced that it was Hedwig. Yeah. And had they not gotten her to repeat the question, they would have answered Ron and Hermione. Yeah, because they were thinking on the train.
I noticed it was a little bit of a quick cut from them kind of debating to where, like, okay, we're going to go with Harry and Hedwig. But that one was challenging at first until the music really swelled, and then I was like, oh, this is Christmas, the transition scene in the snow with Hedwig. So that was a pretty challenging. I like those Obscurio ones, because even though you think you know the answer, all the music blends really well together throughout all 8 movies. So those are pretty good question wise.
So we as an audience found out, because the contestants were sitting right in front of me, that they were told that they could not pick 2 of the charms.
Correct.
Basically. Yeah. So did they give you a reason why they put them up there?
I really can't remember. I remember thinking in that Tuesday tryout day that's kind of literally ridiculous, pun intended.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have came up with something. I don't know why. I think it's just one of those weird, strange Hollywood things.
It's like we have this many screens to fill, so we're just going to put 2 dummy questions up there and then tell everyone they can't pick one.
We need 8 screens for the 8 movies, and we can't come up with 2, extra categories. But let's just. I don't know if people are going to pick up on that unless they listen to this interview, but nobody, what is it, ridiculous? And what was the other one? Confringo?
So it changed. There was, ridiculous was there every time, and then the other one changed kind of each time. Because I remember specifically one time one of the contestants saying, well, I don't want a giant spider to come out or something like that. And I was like, okay. Something odd is going on here with this.
Yeah, again, another kind of semi-forced conversation thing. But I would love to see what ridiculous could be as in a format. Maybe it could be the chapter title artwork. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Or made swirled a picture of somebody and tried to figure out who it was or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, we knew that going in, not to pick those two. And another thing they told us not to do is Obscuro and what's the Engorg? No, not Engorgia. What's the one when they play the clip and something comes next? What was that one? Revelio? Yeah.
Yeah.
They told us if this team picks one of those two categories, the next team do not pick one of those two categories because they wanted to factor in the commercial break. So they didn't want to have an audio clip and a video clip and then a commercial break. For some reason, again, the higher powers above me had all that figured out for some reason. So that was a little asterisk or a little note that we had to keep in mind while we played.
Yeah. So David obviously kind of became a little bit of a hero of the show, but did not have his best night tonight. But one little fact that I wanted to throw in there is he does know some really obscure stuff. One thing that I wish they hadn't cut out is he knew the actor's name of the guy that was on stage.
The train guy.
And he actually yelled it out to see if he would get a reaction from him.
Oh, before picking?
Before picking.
Wow. Yeah. He was
so what was
go ahead.
Yeah, what was he like?
Well, honestly, he was kind of a recluse. I never really met him. Most of us were a little bit younger, so we, we were just kind of more lively, went to the pool, hung out in the lobby, ate pizza and whatnot. So I never really saw him. And maybe on like the Monday, I was coming in and out of my room, going up the elevator with one of our babysitters or wranglers. And this elderly gentleman was already there with one of the wranglers. And he got out of the elevator on, the 10th floor and I was on the 11th floor. And then I asked my wrangler, I was like, well, who is that guy? Because I was thinking, because he was decked out in a button down and a jacket, I was thinking it was some Warner Brothers executive that was kind of checking in on us. And he's like, no, dude, that's a contestant. And I'm like, are you serious? That old guy's a contestant? But yeah, he was really charming. When we did our costumes and whatnot, he was fully decked out in Hufflepuff's wardrobe. He really fit the part. He kind of reminds me, like every time I read the books now, I've read them once through since then. We get to Professor Binns, and now David has overtaken my mind as what Professor Binns looks like.
That's great. I would love to see David play Professor Binns in a remake or something.
Absolutely.
So how did you come to Harry Potter? Like, how did you get to all of this?
So the books hit the US in 98. So that puts me right at 8 years old. My stepmom just kind of brought this book home one day and started reading me and my stepbrother a chapter a night. The only thing I can really remember from that first book was how terrified I was of Fluffy. Just the idea of a three-headed dog. So then those are back in the days when the Scholastic Book Fair were a big deal in middle school. So then I saw the other two books there, and then me and my brother, we would read a chapter a night. He would read one, then I would read one, and then by the time we got to Prisoner of Azkaban, it was just a power struggle over who could binge read, the most. So that lasted all the way through. And then the movies came out in 2001, obviously, and I was exactly the same age as Harry at that point. November of that year is when I turned 11. So I feel like I grew up with Harry up until book 7 came out when I was 17. So I feel like my best friends growing up was Ron and Hermione. And it's just, I can't believe, out of just the millions of years of existence of, humanity on Earth, that I was lucky enough in a way to grow up at the perfect age to experience these stories. And they're great, and I'll never get all of them or never get tired of them. Peel behind the onion, I have a 2-year-old now, and her name is Lily, named for obvious reasons. I was kind of fortunate enough to slip that one by my wife, but I can't wait to pass on these stories to her, and I really can't wait to see her experience the magic for the first time.
So that's something that we have in common. I just recently adopted 3 children,
Okay.
and the youngest which is 4. And I got my wife. I tried a wide variety of names, including Lily, but I did get Emma, and that was the closest that I could get, and named for obviously Emma Thompson, who played Hermione.
Emma Watson. Yeah.
Emma Watson, and not
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson was also in the movies, but not Hermione.
My wife
Emma.
won't let me do that because she knows my childhood crush is Emma Watson, so that name is off limits for sure. But yeah, I slipped it in there because I went with Lillian. I was thinking really. I was doing 4D chess. I was like, what about the name Lillian for a girl? And it just kind of stayed at the top of our list. And secretly, I was yes.
Awesome. So what memory will you take away from all of this the most, you think?
Honestly, just being picked, just being, besides, the friendships that were made and whatnot, and individually, from my point of view, just because this kind of stuff, you hear it all the time, this kind of stuff never happens to me, or, to be so lucky, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity, unless they do, a 40 years later anniversary, to be, recognized for my dedication to the series. Again, speaking just for myself, it was a blessing, and it's an experience that, like Dumbledore, I wish I could just, take out into a pensieve and never forget it. It's really rewarding, and again, great to be recognized, to invest all this time into the series and into the books and movies, and to, in a way, be recognized for or rewarded for being a part of this universe in a way.
So you got to take home the shirt, I'm guessing.
Well, I wasn't told that I could. I was just kind of in that trailer parked outside and feeling obviously a little defeated. And I just kind of looked at that shirt and I'm like, no one's telling me I can't take it. They just said, change out and we're going back to the hotel room. So it accidentally, somehow, mysteriously ended up in my book bag, and no one ever said anything about it.
Awesome. Did they pay you for this? Did you get anything else for being a part of this?
Yeah. So obviously they paid for the hotel and the plane ride out there. We had a per diem, and they paid because there was a bunch of legal contract paperwork. You pay for, I forget what the legal term is, but it's basically paying for your name, image, and likenesses.
Yeah.
And so legally, there's an incentive, monetary value in that. It wasn't, a lot, but it was, I guess enough to substantiate legal binding contracts.
Okay. Well, that's something. We got paid $75 each day of taping. Mm-hmm. So the day in between, we got nothing, but we still had to be there. But the 2 days that we were there, we got paid $75.
Yeah. I didn't have to worry about paying for drinks or meals while I was there.
Well, that's nice. Mm-hmm. I guess that's all I've got. Do you got anything else that you want? Please make sure to plug your new YouTube channel, which has been fantastic.
Yeah. So this has been a burning passion of mine. I've been dying to kind of express all of my Harry Potter fandom, and I've been wanting to build a community for a long time, especially gearing up to where my daughter gets older. I have this idea way off in the distance to where I'm going to do live reads, with her, to get her reaction. I don't know what the legal ramifications of all that is yet, but we'll jump those hurdles when we get there. But yeah, guys, for all of you out there watching, I'm just now stepping my foot into this YouTube world. And if you look up the Mr. Well podcast on YouTube, I have a video going over my experience, behind the scenes with this whole quiz show experience being selected, and a couple little extra little nuggets back there. And I just released yesterday my review on the Fantastic Beasts 3 trailer with my thoughts on the movie and the Fantastic Beasts series as a whole. So if you guys don't mind, I'd appreciate a like and a follow. Just again, give me time to kind of figure out all this stuff, and we're going to eventually build up to bigger and better things in the future.
So I guess my last question is about your Mr. Wells podcast, and that, did you see the commercial for Fantastic Beasts in tonight's episode?
Yeah, the shortened down version, yeah.
Yeah. So did you happen to hear what the actor who plays Jacob said leading up to that trailer?
No, honestly, I was kind of putting on my daughter's PJs for nighttime, but I did see what's his name, Vogel,
Dan Fogelty.
Dan Fogel. I did see him. I was like, oh, what are they about to gear up for? Because I think Warner Brothers kind of dropped the ball because they were supposed to give us an HBO reunion trailer this past Wednesday that never happened. But when I saw that it was just kind of a repeat of the trailer we got on Monday, I was like, oh, that's cool. So I didn't hear what was it.
He did say that it did feature the best wizard in the movie who helps out Newt, kind of implying that he is saying that Jacob is a wizard.
Yeah, if you guys want to go check out my video, I address this. It probably takes up the biggest chunk of my concerns and whatnot. So I'd like to hear what everyone else thinks on that. It's concerning because I don't like retcon and all that, or like cheap, easy plugs. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, so definitely check out the Mr. Wells podcast to kind of explore that further. Thank you so much for joining me for this finale. It was an amazing 4-week experience. Thank all you guys out there for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share with all your friends for both of us. That would be fantastic. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, Clint. I appreciate you having me on.
And I'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
You too, buddy. Take care.